Chapter 6.6666 Gabriel. Still written by Ben in black ink. "Wait!" shouted Theevil. "The governor has committed a crime, and she cannot be released." Even though he was in so much trouble, Theevil still couldn't resist cruelty. As Mac's matrix illegally used magic that discriminated against someone who is not capable of feeling kindness because of their ancestry. I have the blood of minotaurs in me and the blood of Desgul. Neither species is capable of kindness, so her direct attack against me demands a penalty. Theevil leered at Stella. Stella strode over to Theevil and looked as if she might strike him, but at the last minute she swerved and walked across to one of the tables. Jeremiah screeched in Theevil's face as Stella walked past, stretching out his wings and flapping wildly to mess up Theevil's hair. Theevil smoothed down his horrible straw-like hair and spun around to see what Stella was doing. "Stop! You have no rights here," he shouted. Ignoring Theevil, Stella said, "I want this boy to talk to Gabriel." Stella held Imo's hand and guided him across to Gabriel before lifting him up gently so that he could stand on the table to be closer to Gabriel's face. The Archangel's face was so kind that it melted all of our hearts, except those of Theevil and his nasty thugs. Imo started to cry. Gabriel knelt down so that his eyes were level with Imo's face. "Don't worry, Imo," he said. "I've always known you, and I'm going to help you find your parents and your sister." Imo was so shocked that he stopped crying and his eyes nearly fell from his head. He sniffed a few more times and gulped. Would you," he asked, "would you really help me to find them?" "Of course," said Gabriel, his warm smile lighting up the room. "This nightmare will be over very soon. I know it." Imo nodded. So do I think." Gabriel beamed at Imo. "But before we can move forward, can you please tell me this? Did Governor Matrix put Bishop Thieve up against the ceiling and turn him into a stalactite, or was it you?" Imo looked anxious, clearly worried that Theevil would punish him if he said the wrong thing. "This boy is a liar," said Invictus. "He most certainly is not," said Jax, staring fiercely at Invictus. Gabriel turned Imo's face towards him. "Do not worry about anything," said Gabriel. "Look only at me." Imo nodded. "It was me on the ceiling," said Imo. "It was horrible because I am kind and I shouldn't have been frozen." Gabriel nodded. "Continue," he said. "Theevil said I had to have a little vial of his blood in my pocket so that I would show up as being nasty like him. Now I realise that he also wanted the governor to break the law because his ancestry comes from Desgul and minotaurs." Gabriel looked steadily at Imo. "That was very cruel of Bishop Thieve," he said. He knew that the governor would be cross, and he knew that she might target him in some way. Imo nodded. "And yet he forced you to be transformed into his likeness and to have his blood in your pocket. And then he allowed you to be terrified while he hid," continued Gabriel. Imo sighed, clearly still terrified. Gabriel looked concerned for the little boy. "Come here," he said, holding out his arms. Imo allowed the Archangel to lift him up and cradle him in his strong arms. As we watched, There seemed to be golden kindness streaming from Gabriel into the room. "Stop it!" yelled Theevil. Chapter 7, Christmas Day Revisited. But Gabriel did not stop. Instead, he called for someone to enter the dining hall. In through the hole in the wall came 2 adults and a little girl who would have been about Jem's age. "Amelia!" shouted Imo. "Mummy! Dad!" Gabriel bent down to place Imo gently into his mother's arms. The whole family hugged, and then they cried, and then they hugged some more. Theevil tried to shout at them to get out, but Gabriel stilled his lips, and Theevil couldn't speak. Stella asked some of her time fairies to supersize and take Imo's family onto her ship for refreshments. "I want you all to feel very safe," she said. Imo and his family beamed at Stella, and then the wild time pirate turned to look at Theevil. "Imo Nevitt is no longer a student at Mudfog," announced Stella. "The Nevitts will be travelling on my ship this very night, headed for Marescimar." Gabriel looked stern. "You have not acted like a bishop," said Gabriel. "You've acted like a common thug." Theevil opened his mouth to protest, but Gabriel raised his hand and said, "Silence." Bishop Thieve looked furious. Gabriel continued, "I need to clarify something for everyone here, and I will tell the Nevitts later." Theevil continued to look like he was going to explode. "Let it be known by all of you that the blood of minotaurs, Desgul, and other creatures that are incapable of kindness do not override the capacity for human beings to be kind," said Gabriel in a loud voice. "The blood of human beings will always allow kindness to triumph. But there is one condition." We all stared at Gabriel. Gabriel looked steadily at all of us as he said, "The human being must want to be kind, must treasure the knowledge that being kind is important. If he or she, or Guy, does not treasure kindness, then of course another heritage may take over." Gabriel stared at Theevil. "And you, sir," he added, "you have known these facts all along. So you have had the governor of the land imprisoned when she has done nothing wrong." Theevil looked as if he wanted to scream. Gabriel went on, "I've a good mind to ask Captain Stella to take all these students to Marescimar. Now what say you?" Gabriel waved his arms towards the bishop, and his ability to speak returned. "You may not take these students anywhere," roared Theevil. "I may have made mistakes, but I am still in charge here. By God I am, under the law." "He is in charge," said Invictus, "and my father used to be a president." Gabriel raised his eyebrows and sighed. "I am not sure what that has to do with anything," he said, looking at Invictus. "But shall we 3 sit and discuss a way forward?" Theevil squinted his eyes at Gabriel. "What are you up to?" he asked. "What are you up to?" asked Gabriel. Invictus sighed. "I do not wish to sit at the table," he said. "I trust Bishop Thieve with my life." Gabriel shook his head. "Then I would have to wonder if you've understood anything that's happened here today." Invictus looked proud and stalked away from Gabriel. He tried to sit at our table, but Jax said that he could not. Invictus eventually sat on a chair that looked like a throne and glared at everyone. Gabriel and Theevil were in the corner of the dining room, talking in low voices, but there seemed to be quite a bit of anger coming from Theevil. His face kept going red, and then he'd stand up and shout at Gabriel. Of course, Gabriel was an utter gentleman and would wait until Theevil calmed down before continuing. While all of this was going on, Stella sat at our table. In the quietest of whispers, she said, "Don't worry about a thing." And then she stood up and shouted, "What's wrong with all of you? Go over to the Christmas tree and get your gifts." "No!" shouted Theevil, standing up. "They have to do their homework." "And their chores," said Invictus, standing up and trying to look important. "Homework? Chores?" shouted Stella. "This day might not be Christmas Day, but because you ruined the actual day and broke the tree, I'd say that today is Christmas Day revisited." "Yes!" shouted all the children. Gabriel stood up and then flew across the dining hall, sweeping his huge wings over the tree. As he did, even more gifts appeared all around it. There were oohs and ahs as everyone fell in love with Gabriel. Each gift was named, and the boys could barely contain their excitement as they unwrapped computer games and bikes, chocolates and drum kits, guitars and big sets of books, tins of sweets and the best flying planes. Gabriel went back to sit next to Theevil, who was clearly outraged. "It's simply a second Christmas," said Gabriel calmly. Theevil frowned and shook his head.